Hello and welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. My name is Karen Seltz. I am really excited to talk about stop trying to get it right. So I'm in this advanced rapid resolution therapy class, and these are with people that have done at least 60 hours of classroom training in rapid resolution therapy. So that's the qualification to get into this class. And there are so many people in there that I couldn't tell you their names. I couldn't tell you what their voices sound like. And this is a really highly interactive class. We are encouraged to participate either as like the test subject, like, hey, I have this issue. Could you help me solve it? Or as the facilitator, meaning we're helping people solve it, right? And sometimes we'll have breakout rooms. And in one of these breakout rooms, this woman who is a naturopathic doctor. I've never seen her before in the class. And she's not someone who has ever volunteered to say, oh, this is what I noticed, this is what, or to help. Like, so we're encouraged to participate in a variety of different ways. And we talked about, she's like, I see you there all the time participating. And I said, yeah, you know why? I said, because I'm willing to mess it up. I'm willing to look stupid. And I've given up this need to look perfect. Now, this has been a journey. It's taken me decades to get there. But the freedom that's on the other side of that is just indescribable. And I'm willing to make a mistake, which means I'm growing, which means I can serve on such a greater level. So my question for you is, where is it that you are trying to get it right? As if there's one right, best, only way to do something. Now, I do the same thing too. Like in this class, when I'm up in front of the entire class, sometimes I'm like, oh, what's the right sequence? Or how would Dr. Connolly do it? Or whatever. But when I'm with a client, I don't do that, right? Like they don't know what's right. So the pressure's not there. But this pressure that we put on ourselves to do it the right way, to not be judged, to have people look at us a certain way is killing our creativity. It's activating the nervous system, right? And here's the interesting thing about that. Through this work that I've been doing with Dr. Don Connolly of Rapid Resolution Therapy Institute, I realized that when we're worried that someone's going to judge us negatively, our nervous system, our primitive mind, the subconscious mind, reads that data exactly the same way as there's a lion chasing us. We could die any second. Now, it doesn't make any sense to our logical mind, this part. It makes no sense that we think we're going to die if someone judges us negatively. But if you go back to caveman days, or not even that far, really, if you did something that angered your tribe or was despicable or whatever, the ultimate punishment was for them to banish you. And that would, of course, lead to death. So it's in our DNA that we feel if we're abandoned, or if we're judged, then we're abandoned. If we're abandoned, we'll die. And of course, it goes back to childhood too, because we know as little babies, we cannot take care of ourselves. So if we don't please our parents or whoever's raising us, we know we're going to die. So all of that is in us. And tonight, I really want to dive into, what do you do? Because you're counteracting nature and this programming that's in there. I mean, it's in there deep. I don't know anybody who's escaped like the fear of public speaking, or the fear of making a mistake, or trying to do it perfectly before anybody else sees it, or whatever. Like, we all have these things. And are you willing to mess it up? Are you willing to take a stand? Now, I'm not saying that if you haven't up until now, you've done anything wrong, because there is wiring in your brain that has kept you exactly where you are, because your brain wants you to be alive. Now, that's the number one directive, right? It's like survival. Survival is the number one directive of the subconscious mind. If it doesn't know that you've got that part down pat, it's going to keep you where you are. because that means you've survived everything you've lived through up until now. So more of the same will most likely survive, right? It's survivable. Anything outside of your comfort zone, anything outside of the known is potentially dangerous. And especially if you've been avoiding something, your subconscious mind thinks, why else would you be avoiding it unless it was deadly or highly dangerous? Like there's a really good chance we're going to die if we do this thing. So let's take a breath. Let's play. Let's be willing to mess it up. So when I was doing a lot more coaching than rapid resolution therapy, one of the things that I would give, like an assignment to my clients that were perfectionists, was to make mistakes on purpose. It kind of gives you permission to mess it up. So one of my clients, a highly analytical, really smart woman, and she would spend hours on every social media post, which meant she would post like once every 3 weeks, right? I'm like, okay, you got 15 minutes. And you get to include 2 mistakes. I want you to do the worst one possible. Write the wrong form of your, like, Y-O-U-R, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. You know that one. So she did it. She said it was mortifying. And then once she did it, it was like, this freedom, like she could breathe. She could finally exhale and be expansive and say, oh my gosh, I didn't die. I did not die. I had a client this week. She did a testimonial for me too. It's amazing. And she said her very worst fear came true. And you know what? She was neutral. She was neutral about it. And she's like, I didn't die. And that's like in my sessions, what I do is I prepare people for worst case scenario. It's not like rainbows and butterflies. Like, okay, what if everything goes perfectly and all your clients find you and the love of your life comes to you? Like, no, that's not what people are likely to experience. I want to prepare them for the worst possible thing in their mind. So their mind is like, well, okay, I can stay neutral. Their nervous system stays like intact. And if it happens, it's like, okay, that happened. Now what? So what? Now what? Imagine having that level of regulation in your nervous system. What would be possible for you? So it's kind of a fun game, right? I love it. So let's think about it. What's the worst thing that could happen to you if you make a mistake when you're speaking? What's the worst thing? I don't know. People throw things at you. You get fired from your job. You humiliate yourself and people, talk behind your back. I mean, usually those things are not going to happen, right? Like people get it. Like speaking in front of a group is one of those things that most people at one time or another have had difficulty with. It's still the number one fear right after death. I mean, think about that. That says so much for where our minds are, that we're so afraid of being judged or making a mistake that we won't share our gifts with the world. We care more about what somebody could say about us as negative than serving people. And it's nothing wrong with you if that's you, because it's the hard wiring. But what do we do? So my number one tip is to make mistakes on purpose, not where it's going to cost you. Like, don't do it at work. Like if you work for a corporation, don't make mistakes on purpose there. But if you're posting something on social media, make a grammatical error. Include a picture of you where you don't have your hair and makeup perfect. Like one thing that I do is sometimes if I'm inspired in hot yoga, I just grab my phone and shoot a video afterward. And trust me, I don't look like this. Like, my hair's like flatter to my head. And I've like mascara down here, whatever. Like the only good thing is I have color in my face. It's very pink and rosy. So I don't need the makeup as much. But so what? Like, so what? Sometimes those are my posts that get the most engagement, where I'm so real, so authentic. And usually after a hot yoga class, the stuff that comes through when I'm inspired to do that is because something really big shifted for me that I think would serve someone. So I'm willing at that point to get myself out of the way, my vanity, my, oh gosh, I don't look good. The voice is like, I can hear my mom. You're going to go out like that? Oh my gosh. How many times did I hear that growing up? Way more than I can count, way more. I got to tell you a funny story. So I was overweight a lot as a teenager. Like I just was overweight. I struggled and I yo-yoed. I did the dieting and then I would release a little bit of weight and then I would gain it back. So I moved away. I moved from Michigan to Phoenix and I did this thing that I accidentally lost weight because I did this allergy thing and it changed my appetite. So I went home and I was like very thin. Like I thought I looked really good. I'm like, oh, finally, my mom's not going to be on me for my weight. Finally, I'm going to get that approval I've been seeking my whole life. She's not going to tell me I'm fat. So I go home. And of course, what does she say? I know you already know. She's like, oh my gosh, you're way too skinny. Oh my gosh. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I just can't win, right? It was hilarious. Well, maybe not at the time, but it's hilarious now. Especially, if you were ever overweight as a teenager and your mom or your parents said, oh, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat. For them to say you're too thin, I mean, it's just one of those things you think you would never, ever hear. Anyway, so that happened. I don't know where I was going with that. I have no clue. But I'm going to come back to this present moment, which is about what happens. Like if you're not going to get everyone's approval. All right, so let's talk about psychologically projection. So projection is a psychological term that means the parts of ourselves that we're unwilling to look at, that we think, oh, I could never be like that because that would be not lovable or not acceptable, which would then get me abandoned, which would then get me dead. We will project those qualities out onto other people. So there's in 12-step programs, they say you spot it, you got it, which means if you see it in someone else, it's a reflection of you. Many, if not all, religious traditions will say the same thing. It's like, let you, the first person without sin, be the one to cast a stone. I didn't get that even remotely close, but you know what I'm talking about. But it's the same thing. It's, for me, like, the things that would trigger me would be somebody who appeared selfish or arrogant. And I grew up thinking like if I was selfish, then my mom would not love me and I would die, right? Like I tried so hard not to be selfish. And I ended up being like a people pleaser, not knowing who the heck I was for decades, really, a really long time. No idea what I stood for. It was like, oh, what do you like? What do you want to do? That kind of thing. So because I refused to be selfish, because I thought that would be the worst possible thing I could be. Now, I don't know if people would consider me to be selfish. And you know what? And I don't care. I don't. I really don't care. I am selfish in a lot of ways. I'm selfish with what I say yes to. I'm very practiced and skilled now at checking in with myself. And it's pretty instant now. It used to take me a while. So one thing that I want you to do, and this is related to the whole thing, is to practice noticing what goes on in your body when someone makes a request of you. Now, especially if you say yes to everything without even thinking about it. Oh, yeah, sure, I can do that. And then inside you're like, shit, I just said yes to another thing. And I don't want to do that. And for me, I got resentful when people would ask me and they're just asking a question. It doesn't mean I have to say yes, but I thought I did. I thought if I said no, that would mean I'm selfish, right? Or that I only care about myself. That's the same thing. So however you spin it, or people aren't going to like me, they're not going to invite me to do things, whatever it is. So recently, I've been doing a podcast with a friend of mine for, I don't know, a while. I don't know how long. And we were going to do an episode and I'm like, you know what? I just don't feel it. I don't feel excited about it. So he's somebody, that's one of the things we talk about is do the thing that produces the highest level of excitement in you. And it wasn't. It was kind of like became a have to, because I would drive to his house and, we would do the thing, and I wasn't inspired with the topic either. So there was that part. So I told him, like, I'm not feeling it called to do this anymore right now. And he's like, thank you so much for speaking your truth. And, we just had this beautiful exchange. And that's how I live almost all of the time now. Even if it's an obligation or something that I committed to, if it's not a fit for me anymore, I'm just checking in all the time. Like, do I feel called to do that? And the more you do it, the quicker the process gets. So here's, one of the things that I tell my coaching clients is if someone asks you to do something and you always say yes, the first thing you do to kind of break that process is you say, let me think about it, because it buys you time to get in touch with your body. Because when you first start doing something different that's not in your comfort zone, your subconscious mind is going to say, oh my gosh, you're going to die. They're going to reject you. You're going to die alone. It's going to throw all these things at you. So you get to have a pattern interrupt. So let me think about it. It buys you time. Then if you're in a stress response just by thinking about saying no, you don't have access to your logical mind. You don't have access to your inner guidance system, your intuition. So for a lot of people, it happens in their heart. For some people, it happens in their gut. It happens however it happens for you. So once you get away from the pressure of giving an answer, then you could check in and say, okay, do I want to do this? And usually if it's a yes, it'll be like a hell yes, like you're falling forward and you're like, oh, that feels good. It feels expansive in your body. Your chest opens, your heart opens. If it's a, well, maybe, that's a no. A maybe is a people pleaser's no. So maybe is a no. And you're going to get clearer on that. But usually, like hell no's are like you'll get contracted. Your body might get smaller. It might like close in. You might feel tightness in your shoulders, your throat. Ooh, the throat's a big one because that's the fifth chakra, fifth energy center where expression takes place. It goes down your arms to your hands. You express yourself through writing, obviously through speaking. A lot of healers, artists, all fifth energy center, fifth chakra. So that's a big place. A lot of people will feel tightness, like sometimes they're like their voice goes out or something. So there's information there, like something you get to break through. So once you say maybe let me think about it, then you really check in and you're like, you know what? I checked in and that's not an alignment for me. Or say whatever you want to say. Do not make an excuse like I'm busy that day. That's BS. Please don't do that because you're also telling your subconscious mind that lack of integrity is okay. And the moment you settle for that, your word is no longer good. You don't trust yourself anymore. So really be in integrity. Like, you know what? That just wasn't a yes for me, but thank you so much for asking. Maybe next time, like ask me again. And you want people to be free to ask you to do things, and you get to be free to follow your heart. Is it a yes for you or is it a no? And you can practice with your body, even without even involving your mind that much. But you could say, okay, someone asks you to do something, you just think about doing it and then see what your body does. If it's like a whoa, you fall backward, that's a no. If your body's like, oh yeah, you can fall forward, that's a yes. That was fun for my camera. So just really start paying attention to that. Like, how does it feel in your body? All right. So other things, breaking out of that need to do it right. I talked about making a mistake on purpose. Find somebody that you can practice with. Find a buddy that's willing to get messy with you, to mess things up, and practice doing something. So give each other what we would call in the leadership world a stretch. And a stretch is anything that's outside of your comfort zone. So it could be go up to a stranger in the grocery store and give them a compliment, right? Like that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. Or I don't know, it could be anything outside your comfort zone. Go sing a song on a picnic table at a park. Do a dance, ask a stranger to race. My favorite one, if you've watched any other episodes. It's a very bizarre thing to ask someone, hey, do you want to race? especially if you're my age. But it's hilarious if you really would race. I mean, I would because I'm ridiculous, right? I like to have fun. But do something that gets you out of your comfort zone, because when you do that, you make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then more things are available to you. So when the things that are really important to you pop up, when it comes to speaking your heart or really going for what you want to go for, your dreams, you've practiced being uncomfortable, because going for your dreams is going to require something from you. It's going to require you to do things you've never done before, in ways you've never done them, in bigger and bigger ways that are scary. And as the beautiful Jennifer Finley says, the only way that fear wins is if you do what it tells you. The only way that fear wins is if you do what it says, what it tells you. So if fear says you better hold back, you better be quiet, it wins if you do that. So think about that when you're hearing the voice in your head or feeling it, the feelings in your body that say don't do that. Is it coming from love or is it coming from fear? Love is expansive. Love might tell you to not do something only if it's going to hurt you or somebody else. But fear will tell you you're going to die. You're going to be humiliated. You're going to be embarrassed. Everyone's going to hate you. They're going to laugh at you. You better know everything first. So there's a big difference. And then the feeling is completely different in your body. Fear, you're going to have extra strength in your legs, but it's also contracting everywhere else. And you don't really have access to your logical mind. So if you can't think straight, that's fear. And so what do you do to interrupt it? I personally use the extra strength in your legs. Skip legs. Use the extra strength in your legs. Go skip. Skipping is my favorite pattern interrupt because it adds movement. And if you're skipping, it automatically tells the brain you're okay. Because you're not going to skip if there's a predator chasing you. You're going to run. You're not going to skip if you're sad. Probably you're going to sit in a heap or lie down. So skipping is a really good pattern interrupt. It also just like, I don't know, it does, but it releases endorphins in the brain and it makes you smile and laugh. And that's what you want. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you liked it, please comment. Let me know what you're going to do, what you liked. And if you feel like there's a friend that could use this, please share it. If you have any desire to overcome anything like fear, anger, frustration, resentment, grief, anxiety, I might have said that already, depression, any of those things, like I consider it to be stuck data in the mind. If you want your mind updated so you're clear, focused, and you can be accessing your humor, you can make mistakes and say, oh my gosh, that was fun. I screwed that up, but I did it good. Then please message me. Let's talk about doing some rapid resolution therapy. It's quick, it's painless, it's fun, and it could change your life. 90 minutes could change your life. Thank you so much for watching Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I'm Karen Seltz. I'll see you right here next week. Bye.